Welcome to World Knowledge Channel. Every country in the world faces the problem of foreign debt, but there are countries that stand out with huge debt levels compared to their GDP. In this article, we will take a look at the top 12 list country with the most foreign debt in the world, and look at the causes and consequences of this situation. Let's find out what it is through this video. 1. It's America. According to Fox News on September 15, the U.S. Treasury Department announced new data on September 12, of which, the total overdue debt of the U.S. is about $24,300 billion United States dollars, including debt held by the public, and $6,600 billion United States dollars is internal equity debt within the government. According to the U.S. Treasury Department, internally held debt includes federal trust funds, revolving funds, and special funds, as well as federal funding bank securities. Debt held by the public includes all debt held by any person or entity other than an agency of the United States federal government, corporations, individual domestic investors, state or local governments, the Federal Reserve, foreign investors, foreign governments, and other organizations. And about one-third of America's publicly held debt now belongs to foreign owners. According to the latest report released by the U.S. Treasury Department on July 18, by the end of May, China only held $980.8 billion United States dollars of U.S. government debt, down $23 billion United States dollars compared to April, and decreased nearly $100 billion United States dollars, equivalent to 9%, from the beginning of the year until now. For the first time since May 2010, the amount of U.S. government debt held by China fell below the $1,000 billion mark. Beijing has tended to reduce its ownership of U.S. public debt starting from the beginning of 2021. Foreign debt, $21.76 trillion United States dollars. Due to the huge impact of the COVID-19 acute respiratory infection pandemic, the British government's borrowing amount in the first 6 months of fiscal 2020, starting April 1, was 6 times higher than the previous year. The same period in 2019, bringing the country's public debt to a record high since 1960. In May, the national insurance system and VAT income from taxes both decreased during the coronavirus blockade because of spending for support measures to skyrocket. This is the first time debt has been larger than the size of the economy since 1963, but it is not as high as the post-war peak of 258% in 1946–1947. The deficit in the first 2 months of the financial year, April and May, is estimated to be £103.7 billion, £87 billion more than the same period last year, another record. However, the Office for National Statistics, ONS, estimates that borrowing for the 2020–2021 financial year will be even huge than that, with £298 billion. That would be the largest deficit since World War II. Massive borrowing in the first months of 2020 has caused total British government debt to increase to £1.95 trillion, exceeding the size of the economy for the first time in more than 50 years. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said the above figures showed the serious impact of the COVID-19 epidemic on public finances. Foreign debt, $9.83 trillion. 2. It's England. Due to the huge impact of the COVID-19 acute respiratory infection pandemic, the British government's borrowing amount in the first 6 months of fiscal 2020, starting April 1, was 6 times higher than the previous year. The same period in 2019, bringing the country's public debt to a record high since 1960. In May, the national insurance system and VAT income from taxes both decreased during the coronavirus blockade because of spending for support measures to skyrocket. This is the first time debt has been larger than the size of the economy since 1963, but it is not as high as the post-war peak of 258% in 1946–1947. The deficit in the first 2 months of the financial year, April and May, is estimated to be £103.7 billion, £87 billion more than the same period last year, another record. However, the Office for National Statistics, ONS, estimates that borrowing for the 2020-2021 financial year will be even huge than that, with £298 billion. That would be the largest deficit since World War II. Massive borrowing in the first months of 2020 has caused total British government debt to increase to £1.95 trillion, exceeding the size of the economy for the first time in more than 50 years. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said the above figures showed the serious impact of the COVID-19 epidemic on public finances. Foreign debt, $9.83 trillion. 3. France. The second largest economy in the Eurozone is in the process of recovering in a backwards and forwards style, according to comments from the French National Statistics Agency. According to the head of the French Central Bank, the French and European economies will decline sharply in 2023 and the possibility of falling into recession within a certain period of time cannot be ruled out. Forecasting for 2023, I think the speed will decrease sharply due to a lot of instability in energy bills. If divided into 3 periods, 2022 will be a period of resistance, 2023 will be a period of decline and 2024 will be able to recover, Mr. Villeroy de Galhau said. Governor of the French Central Bank Villeroy de Galhau also said that, despite lowering the growth forecast for 2023 from 2.5% to 1.4%, the French government will likely have to continue to lower it. Furthermore, the forecast figure will be given in the 2023 budget bill prepared to be presented to the French National Assembly at the end of September. The French National Institute of Statistics and Economic Research, INSEE, 2 days ago also predicted that the French economy would stagnate in the last 3 months of 2022 and stagnate in the first half of 2023. Foreign debt, $7.36 trillion. 4. Germany. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Germany's public debt ratio rose suddenly to a record level last year. Information from the German Federal Statistics Agency, D-Status, shows that at the end of 2020, the German economy's public debt reached €2,172.9 billion, equivalent to $2,580.63 billion United States dollars, the highest figure ever in annual debt statistics. According to expert Sebastian Dullian, head of the IMK Macroeconomic Research Institute, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic causing a great impact on the economy and social life, the rate of increase in public debt in Germany is huge. However, this does not worry the leading European economy. Currently, debt ratios remain lower than they were after the 2012 financial crisis and are likely to fall sharply from 2022. In total, actual borrowings this year are much lower as some states have planned to loan plan in the next few years. Except for a few states such as Brandenburg, Hesse, Rhineland-Palatinate and Saxony-Anhalt that did not report their borrowing situation, the total of the remaining 12 states so far only has about €40 billion. Many states plan to spend a large part of this year's loan for use next year, especially Bavaria with an amount of up to €10.7 billion. The state of Saxony has planned to borrow a total of €6 billion by 2022. However, most states have also planned to borrow more in 2021 with a total value of up to €17 billion. Foreign debt, $6.69 trillion. 5. Nordic country. Achieving the second highest GDP per capita among European countries, second only to Luxembourg, and the sixth highest GDP per capita, PPP, globally. Today, it ranks as the second richest country in the world in terms of currency value, with the largest capital reserves per capita of any other country. However, the amount of foreign debt also increased to a record high in 2021, reaching $7.11 trillion United States dollars. Its per capita debt level, about $1,319,360, ranks second in the world. The economy of the Nordic country is an example of a mixed economy, a prosperous welfare state and a social democracy that combines free market economics and large state governance. Water in a number of important economic sectors. The public healthcare system in the Nordic country is completely free. People benefit from income from natural resources, especially the oil and gas industry. The unemployment rate is low, about 4.8%, with 68% of the population aged 15 to 74 employed. By 2022, 9.5% of the population aged 18 to 66 receive disability benefits and 30% of the workforce is employed by the government, the highest among OECD countries. Labor productivity and average hourly wage also rank first in the world. Foreign debt, $7.11 trillion. 6. Windmill country. Located in northwest Europe with an area of about 6,500 square kilometers of reclaimed land, the result of careful water management since medieval times. Along the coast, land was reclaimed by reclamation, while inland some lakes and swamps were drained. All these new lands were often surrounded by dikes. The English name of windmill country means low land. And indeed, this country is a low and flat land. If the protection of sand dunes and dikes is lost, the most densely populated areas, those located no more than 1 meter above sea level, half the area of windmill country, will be submerged underwater. 1/4 of this country's total area is even below sea level. Currently, the land of windmills is the 16th largest economy in the world. Between 1998 and 2000, the economy grew on average 4%, much higher than the European average. Growth dropped significantly during 2001–05 due to the global slowdown. However, in 2006 it increased by 2.9%. Growth reached 4.2% in the third quarter of 2007. Inflation was at 1.3% and may decrease to 1.5% in 2008. Statistical data from the Windmill Country Statistics Office said the current unemployment rate is 4.0% of the total labor force. According to Eurostat standards, the unemployment rate is only 2.9%, the lowest rate among EU countries. Foreign debt, $4.19 trillion. 7. Switzerland. In the next 2 to 3 years, Switzerland can start paying off tens of billions of dollars in debt arising from economic support policies during the pandemic. Swiss Finance Minister Uli Maurer said on a radio show last weekend that if things go extremely well, the debt arising from the government's implementation of a program to reduce working hours and support businesses affected by COVID-19 will be about 20 billion Swiss francs, $21.15 billion United States dollars. If not, this number could rise to 35 billion francs. Although this amount is still less than the Swiss government's initial estimate of 40 billion francs, Mr. Maurer warned that there are still many uncertain factors. He said Switzerland could start reducing the amount of debt incurred in the next 2 to 3 years and complete debt repayment in 15 years. Last week, the Swiss government said it would decide how to repay the debt by the end of the year. Mr. Maurer confirmed they will not raise taxes to do that. He said one possible option would be to set aside an annual share of government profits from the Swiss Central Bank, rejecting calls for the agency to pay the special sum in one lump sum. Maurer said the central bank should be independent, and politicians should not touch the assets the agency would need to intervene in currency markets to contain rising Swiss franc prices. He explained that this is a necessary contribution for this country that relies heavily on exports. Foreign debt, $2.22 trillion. 8. It's Canada. In 1993, Canada faced a budget deficit of up to 30 billion United States dollars. About 36% of government budget revenue is used to pay debt. At that time, Finance Minister Paul Martin was the one who succeeded in reducing the huge budget deficit, bringing Canada into a period of 12 consecutive years of budget surplus. Mr. Paul Martin has cut spending. The weak Canadian dollar and the booming U.S. economy have helped the country achieve a balanced budget. In the 1998 budget year, the Government of Canada estimated that the reduction in the budget deficit was 55% due to economic growth and 35% due to spending cuts. Don Drummond, who was in charge of the budget under Martin, said the US and Europe will not be able to reduce their budget deficits easily because the current economic context is more difficult than in the 1990s. In 2008, Canada was not excluded. Global economic crisis, but this country's recovery speed is faster than other countries. Although Canada's budget deficit is currently at its highest level in history, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, still believes that this North American country is the only country in the G7, a group of 7 industrialized countries, will have a budget surplus in 2015. More importantly, Canada did not suffer from the mortgage credit crisis nor the subprime credit crisis. Foreign debt, $2.41 trillion. 9. Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a small country located in Western Europe, bordering France, Germany and Belgium. Known as the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, the country is a constitutional monarchy. With an area of 2,586 square kilometers and a population of less than 500,000 people, Luxembourg has the highest GDP per capita in Europe and the world, reaching $110,573 per capita. Industry and banking play an important role in the economy. Luxembourg has a high quality of life, low unemployment and inflation rates, along with preferential tax policies. The official language is Luxembourgish. French and German are also widely used. Luxembourg is an open country with a developed economy, mainly influenced by the EU. With a high growth rate and GDP per capita exceeding $100,000 in 2012, Luxembourg is an important destination for e-commerce businesses from Asia and the US. Foreign debt, $3.96 trillion. 10. Japan. The latest statistics from the Japanese Ministry of Finance show that the country's public debt has increased to a new record high. Specifically, at the end of June 2022, the central government's total outstanding public debt was more than 1,255 million billion yen, more than $9,421 billion, the highest ever. Thus, with a population as of July 1 of about 124.84 million people, Japan's average public debt per capita is 10.05 million yen, more than $75,000 person. Total outstanding public debt, including government bonds, financial bills and loans, increased by 13,885.7 billion yen compared to the end of March 2022, i.e. the end of fiscal 2021, of which the balance bill debt increased by 24,299.9 billion yen to 110,498.8 billion yen, while outstanding bond debt decreased by 7,075.9 billion yen to 984,335.3 billion yen. The main reason why Japan's public debt continues to increase is because the country has to spend huge sums on COVID-19 epidemic prevention, while social security costs are also ballooning due to the aging population. No matter how you look at it, Japan's debt is incomprehensibly high. According to the Bank of Japan, BOJ, at the end of 2019, Japan's debt stood at 1,328 trillion yen, equivalent to about $12,200 billion, just over half of the total U.S. debt in absolute terms. But compared to the size of Japan's economy, this is the largest debt block in the world, equivalent to about 240% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. Foreign debt, $4.68 trillion. 11. Italy. Italy's financial problems are getting worse. Yields on 10-year Italian government bonds, which once rose to 3% when President Sergio Mattarella temporarily blocked the Five Star Movement and the League from forming a government, are likely to increase further, and potentially the possibility of pushing Italy as well as the Eurozone into an out-of-control crisis. Italy is not simply a country with too many problems, but Italy is also large in scale. Italy's troubled banking industry is the third largest in Europe, after France and Germany. The Italian government's public debt is currently at €2.5 trillion, equivalent to $2.95 trillion. Italy's public debt is equivalent to the total public debt of both France and Germany, higher than the total debt of Spain, Portugal, Greece and Ireland, the 4 countries that had to be rescued. A financial crisis. 12. China. According to the latest report from the McKinsey Global Institute, MGI, China's total foreign debt has skyrocketed since the global financial crisis. The Chinese government's economic stimulus policy is the main reason why total debt increased fourfold, from $7,000 billion United States dollars in 2007 to more than $28,000 billion United States dollars at the end of 2014, nearly 3 times China's GDP. It is predicted that by 2018, China's total foreign debt could reach 400% of GDP, equivalent to debt crisis countries in Europe such as Spain. The instability is not only in the rapid increase in debt quickly but also in debt structure. Half of all loans are related to the real estate market. Bank accounts account for nearly half of new loans, and the majority of local government debt is unsustainable. MGI research also shows that the proportion of loans from businesses and organizations accounts for a large proportion, especially the non-financial business sector, including real estate development companies. Foreign debt, $2.52 trillion. While the list of the top 12 countries with the most foreign debt in the world is a worrying look at the state of global finance, what is important is awareness and effective action to address this problem. Measures such as strengthening financial management, promoting sustainable economic development and promoting international cooperation can help reduce risks and create a more stable environment for countries to manage its foreign debt. If you find the video useful, please share with more people and subscribe to the channel. Like and have any questions, please leave a comment below. Thank you for your interest in following. Hello and see you in the next video.